the night the world tilted. The chandeliers shimmered like constellations trapped inside crystal. Gold light cascaded across the marble floors of the Kingston Grand Ballroom, reflecting off polished tuxedos, diamond necklaces, and champagne flutes raised in effortless elegance. The air smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. It was the kind of event where power didn't knock. It simply walked in. And tonight, power was watching. At the center of the room stood Daniel Cole, 6'2", broad-shouldered, impeccably, dressed in a tailored black tuxedo that hugged his frame with quiet authority. His posture was straight but not arrogant. His smile, gentle, sincere. Beside him, glowing like molten gold under the chandelier lights, stood his wife, Amara Cole. Her gown was liquid gold silk, hugging every curve with deliberate precision. Her hair fell in glossy waves across her shoulders. Her makeup was flawless, soft but commanding. When she entered a room, conversation shifted. But tonight, something was different. Daniel wrapped his arm around her waist and leaned in close. "You look breathtaking," he murmured. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you." Across the ballroom, a pair of dark eyes studied them. Marcus Reed. Marcus didn't look like Daniel. Where Daniel radiated calm stability, Marcus radiated heat. His suit was charcoal gray, slightly slimmer cut, his beard perfectly shaped, his smile confident, almost dangerous. He didn't belong to the elite circle gathered tonight, but he carried himself like he owned it, and Amara noticed. Daniel didn't. Near them, their children stood in miniature elegance. Naomi, 8 years old, held her father's hand, her pale blue dress puffing gently around her small frame. Jordan, 6, tugged slightly at his bow tie, glancing up at his mother for approval. "Mommy, can we go see the chocolate fountain?" Naomi whispered. Amara looked down and forced a soft smile. "In a minute, sweetheart." Her voice was distracted. Her eyes drifted again to Marcus. He raised his glass slightly. "Just enough." Daniel followed her gaze this time. "Do you know him?" he asked gently. She hesitated for half a second too long. "He's a friend." "A friend." Daniel nodded slowly. "Should I introduce myself?" "No." "Too fast." She cleared her throat. "I mean, he's leaving soon." Daniel studied her face. Something in his chest shifted. Subtle, quiet, but present. The host tapped a spoon against crystal. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate legacy, partnership, and the power of unity." Applause filled the hall. Legacy. Partnership. Unity. Words that suddenly felt ironic. Daniel squeezed Amara's waist slightly. "Thank you for standing by me," he whispered. "Through everything." Through the student loans, through the late nights. Through the years he worked 2 jobs while finishing his MBA. Through the small apartment. Through the setbacks. He meant it. Every word. Amara swallowed. Because she remembered those days, too. She remembered the nights she cried in the bathroom because she felt invisible. The years she felt stuck. The routine. The predictability. The safety. Safe. Daniel was safe. Marcus was not. And sometimes, safety feels like suffocation to someone chasing fireworks. The music swelled. The dance floor filled. Marcus began walking toward them. Slow, confident, deliberate. Daniel extended his hand politely. "Daniel Cole." Marcus shook it firmly. "Marcus Reed." Their eyes locked. 2 very different men. 2 very different energies. Amara's heart pounded louder than the orchestra. Marcus looked directly at her. "You ready?" Daniel frowned slightly. "Ready for what?" The room seemed to shrink. The music faded into background noise. Amara inhaled sharply. "And then, I can't do this anymore." Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I can't keep pretending," she continued, voice trembling but loud enough for those closest to hear. "I'm not happy." Naomi's small hand tightened around her father's. Jordan looked confused. "Amara." Daniel's voice lowered. "Not here." "Yes, here," she said. "I've been unhappy for years." "Years." The word sliced. Daniel's face drained slowly of color. "What are you saying?" She turned toward Marcus. "I'm leaving." The silence that followed was deafening. It was the kind of silence that fractures time. Gasps echoed softly around them. Daniel's world didn't explode. It imploded, quietly, internally, like glass cracking beneath invisible pressure. Naomi's voice trembled. "Mommy?" Amara avoided her daughter's eyes. Marcus placed a steady hand at the small of her back. Daniel stared at his wife, his partner, his best friend, his history. "Is this a joke?" he asked softly. She shook her head. Tears threatened her eyes, but not enough to stop her. "I deserve to feel alive." The words landed like a slap. Daniel swallowed hard. "And we don't make you feel alive?" She hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. Marcus guided her gently. Daniel didn't chase, didn't yell, didn't cause a scene. He simply stood there, holding his children, watching the woman he built a life with walk away under chandeliers that suddenly felt colder. Jordan tugged at his jacket. "Daddy, where's Mommy going?" Daniel inhaled deeply, and in that inhale, something inside him changed. "She's figuring things out." Amara didn't look back. The doors of the ballroom opened. She stepped through, and the world tilted. But fate wasn't finished, because 72 hours later, Daniel Cole would receive a phone call that would flip the world upside down. A call about a father he hadn't spoken to in 10 years. A father who had disappeared chasing global ambition. A father who built something so massive, so secretive, so powerful, that governments respected it. Corporations feared it, and the world never saw his son coming. The rise of a silent king. Daniel did not cry that night. Not in the ballroom, not in the car, not even when he tucked Naomi and Jordan into bed. He moved carefully, gently, like a man handling glass. Naomi clung to him. "Is Mommy coming home?" He knelt beside her bed, smoothing her braids back softly. "She loves you very much," he said carefully. That was the truth. But it wasn't the whole truth. "Will she still live here?" Daniel paused. "I don't know yet." Jordan fell asleep faster, confusion giving way to exhaustion. But Naomi stared at the ceiling long after the lights went off. Daniel sat alone in the living room afterward. The house felt larger, colder, too quiet. He replayed the ballroom moment over and over in his head. "I deserve to feel alive." He whispered it to himself. As if we were dead. He wasn't angry. Not yet. He was wounded. And wounded men either collapse or evolve. 3 days later, the call came at 7:12 a.m. Daniel was in the kitchen making pancakes for the kids. Routine kept him steady. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. Daniel Cole speaking. "Mr. Cole, this is Jonathan Whitmore of Whitmore and Hastings International." Daniel frowned. "I don't recognize the firm." "You wouldn't. We represent the estate of Elijah Cole." Everything in Daniel froze. His father, a name he had buried, a memory wrapped in resentment. "I haven't spoken to that man in 10 years, Daniel replied flatly. "I understand. However, he listed you as sole beneficiary." Daniel leaned against the counter. "I think you have the wrong Daniel." "We do not." A pause. "Your father passed away 48 hours ago." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. Emotion flickered, complicated, and unfinished. "I'm sorry to hear that." "There is more, sir. There always is. You are the sole inheritor of Cole Global Holdings." Daniel frowned. "I don't know what that is." The attorney inhaled slowly. "It is a multinational conglomerate with holdings in energy, telecommunications, logistics, private equity, defense contracts, emerging technologies, media networks, and global real estate." Daniel blinked. "And its estimated valuation is approximately $100 billion. Silence. The kind that stretches reality thin. Daniel almost laughed. "Is this some kind of scam?" "It is not." The lawyer began listing assets. Offshore energy companies in West Africa, tech infrastructure in Silicon Valley, commercial towers in Dubai, private jet fleets, media ownership in 3 continents. Daniel slid into a chair. 100 billion. His father, the man who left when Daniel was 15, saying, "I'm building something bigger than this life." Daniel had thought it was fantasy, a midlife crisis, a delusion, but his father hadn't failed. He had conquered. And now, it was his. Meanwhile, Amara woke up in Marcus's penthouse to the smell of imported coffee. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the skyline. It was glamorous, exciting, new. Marcus wrapped his arms around her from behind. "No regrets?" he whispered. She hesitated. "No." But she hadn't called her children yet. And guilt is louder in silence. Marcus kissed her neck. You chose passion, he said. You chose life. She nodded. She wanted to believe it. She truly did. Back at the Cole house, lawyers arrived. Black SUVs lined the street. Neighbors stared. Daniel listened quietly as documents were placed before him. Photos of factories, energy plants, satellite imagery, board structures, share percentages, private investment portfolios. It was overwhelming. This empire, the lawyer explained, was deliberately kept out of mainstream media exposure. Your father preferred private control. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he flipped through pages. He never once contacted me about this. He monitored you, the lawyer said carefully. Daniel looked up sharply. What? He ensured your education was funded anonymously. Certain business opportunities that randomly opened for you were not random. Daniel's mind raced. The internship that changed his career. The scholarship that arrived unexpectedly. The mysterious investor who once backed his failed startup attempt. His father had been there. Just invisible. Why? Daniel whispered. Your father believed struggle builds character. He wanted you to earn your own identity before inheriting his. Daniel leaned back. His chest felt tight. The man he resented had been quietly building a throne for him. The world explodes. It only took 12 hours. Leaks happen fast when billions are involved. Headlines flooded every platform. Secret billionaire empire passes to unknown heir. Who is Daniel Cole? From mid-level executive to 100B power player. Photos of Daniel at the gala surfaced. Unfortunately, so did footage of Amara walking away with Marcus. The internet is ruthless. Clips circulated. Speculation erupted. She left him days before he became a billionaire? She fumbled generational wealth. Marcus stared at his phone in disbelief. Amara dropped hers. Her heart pounded. She turned on the TV. Daniel stood at a podium. Composed. Calm. Immovable. Today I honor my father's legacy, he said steadily. And I commit to using this influence to create opportunity in communities that look like mine. His voice didn't shake. He didn't mention Amara. He didn't look broken. He looked powerful. Marcus muted the television. You told me he was middle management. He was. Well, he isn't now. His tone had changed. Subtle, but sharp. Daniel's transformation. Wealth doesn't change a man overnight, but responsibility does. Daniel spent days reviewing internal structures, weeks meeting executives across continents via secure calls. He replaced exploitative board members, shut down predatory subsidiaries, reinvested into educational grants in underserved black communities globally. Media labeled him the Silent King because he didn't boast. He executed. He didn't party. He planned. He moved like a chess player, and the world leaned forward to watch. Cracks form. Marcus wasn't built for the spotlight shift. Every dinner they attended now came with whispers. That's the woman who left him. You think she knew? Marcus felt smaller by the day. You still love him, he said one night. Amara stiffened. That's ridiculous. Then why do you look at your phone every time it buzzes? Because regret has a pulse, and it beats loudest at night. Marcus poured himself another drink. You left stability for me. Don't start doubting that. She wasn't doubting Marcus. She was doubting herself. The first call. Amara finally dialed Daniel's number. It rang once, twice, voicemail. She didn't leave a message. The next day she tried again. This time he answered. Hello? His voice was steady, not cold, not warm, just controlled. Daniel, it's me. Silence. I figured. She swallowed. I saw the news. I assumed. Another silence. I didn't know, she said quickly. If I had known... If you had known, he interrupted calmly, you wouldn't have left. Her breath caught. That's not what I meant. But it's what you implied. She closed her eyes. Can we talk? In person? A long pause. For the children, she added. He considered it. Tomorrow, my office. 10 a.m. The line went dead. Marcus stood in the doorway. You're meeting him? For the kids. He laughed without humor. Sure. Insecurity is quiet at first. Then it roars. Daniel's office. Top floor. Glass walls. City skyline behind him. When Amara walked in, she felt something she hadn't expected. Intimidation. He stood as she entered. Still the same man, but amplified, presence sharpened, confidence deeper, not ego. Authority. "You look different," she said softly. "I feel different." She nodded slowly. "I made a mistake." The words trembled. Daniel didn't respond immediately. "Which one?" he asked calmly. Her chest tightened. "I thought I needed something more." "You had more," he replied. "You just didn't recognize it." Tears gathered. "I was unhappy. You were restless. That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "What you did wasn't." Silence filled the room. She stepped closer. "I want us back." Daniel studied her carefully. And here, for the first time, he saw it clearly. If the inheritance had never happened, would she be here? He already knew the answer, and it changed everything. The price of choosing fire over foundation. Amara stood in Daniel's office, her reflection faintly visible in the glass walls behind him. For a moment, she saw two versions of her life. One, the woman wrapped in gold under chandeliers, walking away from security for excitement. The other, standing here now, unsure whether she had just walked away from destiny. Daniel moved around his desk slowly. He wasn't angry. That almost made it worse. "I need to understand something," he said calmly. She nodded. "If my father had never died, if there were no empire, no press conferences, no billions, would you still be standing here asking for another chance?" Her mouth opened. No words came out, and that silence told him everything. Daniel exhaled. "I loved you when we had nothing," he said quietly. "When our couch was secondhand and our fridge hummed too loud at night. When I worked 2 jobs and still came home exhausted but grateful, because I had you." Tears slid down her cheeks. "You didn't just leave me, Amara," he continued. "You left our foundation." "I was drowning," she whispered. "I felt invisible." "I was building." "You were always building. Planning, strategizing, thinking about the future." "I wanted to feel now." "And so you chose fireworks," he said gently. "Over bricks?" She sobbed softly. "You're right." He nodded once. "I've forgiven you." Hope sparked in her eyes. "But forgiveness doesn't mean restoration." The words landed softly but permanently. Her knees nearly weakened. "I won't fight you," she said through tears. "I don't deserve that." Daniel walked toward the window, looking over the skyline that now carried his name in boardrooms across continents. "I don't hate you," he said. That surprised her. "I hate that our children saw it happen publicly." She covered her mouth. The children, the part that hurt the most. Marcus unravels. Meanwhile, Marcus's world was shifting. At first, he enjoyed the attention. The interviews asking about his relationship with Amara, the speculation, the controversy. But as Daniel's reputation grew, Marcus began to shrink in comparison. At events, conversations shifted. People spoke to Amara differently now, with curiosity, with judgment, with pity. Marcus noticed it all. One evening, after yet another headline praising Daniel's expansion into African tech infrastructure, Marcus snapped. "You still love him," he said flatly. Amara looked tired. "This isn't about love. It's about regret." She didn't deny it. That was enough. Marcus paced the penthouse floor. "You left a stable man for me. Don't start acting like I was the mistake." She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't before. He loved being chosen, but he didn't love building. He loved winning. And Daniel had never been competing. Marcus poured another drink. "You're thinking about going back." "There is no going back," she whispered. He laughed bitterly. "Good, because I'm not living in another man's shadow. But shadows don't disappear just because you deny the light." The children. Naomi had started asking more questions. "Why does everyone at school know Daddy is rich?" Daniel smiled softly. "Because the news travels fast." "Did Mommy leave because you weren't rich before?" The question pierced deeper than any headline. Daniel crouched to her level. "Mommy left because sometimes adults get confused about what makes them happy." "Are you confused?" He shook his head gently. "No, baby." She studied his face. "You still love her." Daniel paused. "Yes, but you're not together." Sometimes loving someone doesn't mean you're meant to stay. She nodded slowly, not fully understanding but accepting his calm. Jordan simply missed his mother. Children process heartbreak differently. Daniel made sure they saw her regularly. No bitterness. No poison. He refused to let his pain shape their perception. That was his quiet strength. The public storm. 6 months passed. Daniel had restructured entire divisions of Cole Global Holdings. He invested billions into scholarships for underrepresented students in business and technology. He acquired media outlets and diversified leadership boards. He launched mentorship programs in neighborhoods that looked like his childhood. The world began calling him the Silent King because he never responded to gossip, never addressed the divorce publicly, never mentioned Amara in interviews. His silence made him powerful. But silence can also be misinterpreted. Online debates raged. She didn't know he'd be rich. She should have stayed loyal. He leveled up without her. She deserves another chance. Amara watched the conversations from a distance. Every comment felt like judgment. Marcus hated it. "I didn't sign up to be a villain in someone else's fairy tale," he muttered. She didn't respond, because deep down, she knew she had walked out of a palace before realizing it was one. The final crack came quietly. One evening, Marcus returned home frustrated after a business pitch fell through. "Guess who funded the startup instead?" he snapped. Amara didn't need to ask. "Daniel." Marcus laughed sharply. "He's everywhere. Every room, every deal. It's like the world rearranged itself around him." She looked at Marcus carefully. "It didn't rearrange," she said softly. "It revealed." He stared at her. "You regret me." She hesitated. That hesitation ended everything. Marcus grabbed his keys. "Go back to your king," he said coldly, and walked out. The door shut. And for the first time since the ballroom, Amara was alone. No fireworks. No applause. No distraction. Just silence and regret. Months later, she requested one last meeting with Daniel. Not for reconciliation, for closure. They met at a private garden terrace overlooking the city at sunset. He arrived first. She joined him. The air was calm. "You look peaceful," she said. "I am." She nodded slowly. "I wanted to tell you something face to face." He waited. "I didn't leave because you weren't enough," she said. "I left because I didn't know how to appreciate enough." He absorbed that. "And I needed you to see me," she continued. "Not as a provider, not as a planner, but as a woman who wanted passion too." He nodded. "I see that now." She smiled sadly. "It took losing you to understand you." He looked at her gently. "It took losing you to understand myself." They stood in silence as the sun dipped lower. "I won't ask to come back," she said finally. "I know. I just needed you to know. I'm proud of you." That mattered more than she realized. "Thank you," he said. "And I'm grateful," she added. "For what?" "For teaching me that loyalty is priceless." He offered a small, genuine smile. "I hope you find what you're looking for." She nodded. "I think I need to build it myself this time." And for the first time since the gala, they parted without unfinished emotion. Daniel never remarried quickly. He focused on raising Naomi and Jordan with balance and humility. He expanded his empire, but more importantly, he expanded opportunity. He became known not just for wealth, but for integrity. Amara rebuilt too. She went back to school. Started a foundation supporting women rediscovering their independence after divorce, not from guilt, but from growth. One evening, Naomi, now a teenager, asked her father, "Daddy, do you hate Mommy?" Daniel looked at his daughter, then at the skyline. "No," he said softly. "I thank her." "For what?" "For teaching me my worth." Naomi smiled. "You were always a king." Daniel chuckled. "No, baby." He looked out at the city lights. "I just didn't know it yet." Another gala, years later. Same ballroom, different energy. Daniel stood alone at the center of it, confident, grounded, steady. Not lonely, just whole. Across the room, Amara attended as a guest, successful in her own right now. They caught each other's eyes and smiled, not with longing, but with understanding. Some love stories aren't meant to be restored. They're meant to transform. The chandeliers shimmered again. But this time, no one walked away.